I'm standing outside the tent, the one with the fairy lights I chose myself, listening to laughter drift through plastic and canvas, so close I can almost reach through and touch it. The night air chills my skin. My hands sweat, gripping a clipboard covered in notes and schedules. Inside, someone clinks a glass. Someone else, my cousin Liam probably, raises a toast. I can't quite make out the words, but I recognize the sound of happiness, the sound of belonging. I stay perfectly still. It's strange, you know, how you can spend months building something, laying every foundation, picking out every tiny detail, and then, in a single evening, find yourself erased from your own story. You're just from Mum's side. We didn't think you'd mind. Those words echo, sharp and flat. I close my eyes, and for a second I'm not here at all. I'm 8, kneeling in Liam's backyard, pushing mud into a bucket, determined to build the best fort anyone's ever seen. He grins at me, dirt on his chin, and says, "You're really good at this. You make things feel like home." A door swings open somewhere, letting out a burst of music, and the smell of warm bread. Nobody sees me, or if they do, their eyes slip right over just one more person outside looking in. "Don't make a scene, Rachel," I take a shaky breath. All that effort, every late night, every dollar from my savings, and I'm standing in the dark, invisible. The party goes on without me. Have you ever given everything, absolutely everything, only to find yourself left out? If you know that feeling, just leave a dot in the comments. Sometimes I wonder if I was born with this instinct to fix, to organise, to quietly make things work for everyone else. Maybe you know someone like that, or maybe you are someone like that. The one who smooths the rough edges, who remembers the birthdays, who stays late to sweep up the mess after everyone else is gone. That's always been me. My name is Rachel. I'm 36, never married. I plan events for a living, weddings mostly, or the kind of milestone parties where people need everything to be perfect and can't handle the pressure. That's the irony, right? I get paid to manage chaos for strangers, but when it comes to family, I do it for free. I just can't seem to help myself. Liam is my cousin. I grew up with him like a brother. Closer, maybe. He's the reason I learned to build things, fix things, improvise. He's the one I always protected, even when he didn't ask. His family, my family, hasn't had an easy go of it. Money was always tight. And weddings, well, they're expensive in ways that gnaw at you for years. So when Liam called last fall, nervous and hopeful, asking if I'd help him and Amanda pull together a wedding that wouldn't bankrupt anyone, I didn't even hesitate. "You're the only one I trust with this," he said, and there was something in his voice, like he was embarrassed to need help, but grateful too. I could picture him standing in the dark of his apartment, chewing his lip, searching for the right words. "It's not flashy, just real. That's what we want," he added, almost apologising for asking. But I interrupted him. "Of course," I said. "You're like my little brother. This is what I do." I meant it. I would have moved mountains for Liam. I'd done it before, in little ways, ever since we were kids. I still remember that summer we built the backyard fort out of leftover fence posts and lawn chairs. Everyone else gave up halfway through, but Liam and I stuck with it until sunset. I guess I've always liked the feeling of turning nothing into something solid. I threw myself into planning the wedding, the same way I do everything. Head first, heart first, sometimes blind to how much it's costing me. Vendor calls, spreadsheets, sticky notes taped to the fridge. I covered the deposits out of my own pocket because waiting for reimbursements meant losing good deals. I took on extra freelance work just to keep my head above water, but I let it slide when the wedding stuff piled up. I let it all slide, honestly. I told myself, it's for family. This is what family does. It was exhausting and sometimes lonely, but there was a joy in it too, that feeling of being essential, reliable, the one they count on, the fixer. And then the little things started to shift. It started so small I almost missed it. The way Amanda's emails slowed down, or how Aunt June would call late at night with new ideas that felt less like requests and more like corrections. Can you swap the menu to something more traditional? Could we maybe move the ceremony under the old oak tree instead? Each time I said yes. I'd already paid the caterer's deposit out of my own account, so I spent 2 hours negotiating a new menu. The florist was almost finished with the original bouquets, but I talked her into blue hydrangeas and fresh eucalyptus instead. The oak tree was half dead and full of hornets, but I called 3 landscapers until I found someone who'd trim it on short notice. It was always yes and sure, and of course, because that's what you do for family, even when you know it's costing you. I put off 3 paying clients in June, good ones too, because the wedding timeline kept shifting. I told myself I'd catch up later. The savings I'd set aside for my own trip, just a little getaway I'd been planning for years, quietly disappeared line by line. I didn't mind, not really, not yet. Then, one Thursday, my phone buzzed with a message from Amanda. "We made a new group for urgent things. Thought you didn't need all the updates." I stared at the screen, reading it twice. The original chat, the one where we'd started brainstorming everything, was suddenly quiet. I scrolled back through old photos, sample cakes, mood boards, inside jokes. Gone. I wasn't invited to the new group. Maybe they just wanted to spare me the spam, right? Except the next day I overheard Aunt June talking to her sister on the phone while I was double-checking the seating chart. She didn't know I was listening. "Rachel's only good at logistics. Let us handle the heart stuff. She's not real family anyway." Her voice was sharp, almost tired. I froze. For a long moment I couldn't move. Not real family. The words echoed around my head like the sound of someone else's laughter at a party you're not invited to. That week my calls started going unanswered. I'd suggest a song for the ceremony and get no reply. I'd ask if they wanted me to finalise the table settings, and Amanda would text back, "We already decided." I tried again. "Are you sure about the guest list? There's a few gaps." And Amanda just replied, "You're too sensitive, Rachel, don't stress." Too sensitive, too involved, too much, always. I told myself I was imagining things, but the evidence was everywhere. One night, while organising the vendor folders, I saw a message pop up on Aunt June's phone. She'd left it on the kitchen table. "Don't worry, we'll handle Rachel. She means well, but you know how she is." That was all it said. I read it again and again. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or laugh. Handle me. Like I was a problem that needed fixing. I found myself working harder later, trying to prove I belonged. If I could just make everything perfect, maybe then they'd see me. Maybe they'd remember who kept this thing from falling apart. But sometimes you can do everything right and still feel like a guest in your own life. By the final week, I wasn't sleeping. My hands shook when I answered calls. I kept telling myself, just a few more days, just make it to the wedding, and then maybe it would all be worth it. But even then, deep down, I already knew. It happened on a Wednesday, 3 days before the wedding. I was double-checking the final seating chart when I realised there were only 9 names at table 1. My name, which had always been there, was gone. I stared at the list, scrolling back and forth. Maybe it was a typo, some formatting error. It wasn't. Every table, every seat accounted for, except me. I called Amanda. She answered, her voice high and distracted, the sound of people laughing in the background. "Hey, Rachel, what's up?" I swallowed, feeling ridiculous for even asking. "Hey, I just noticed my name isn't on the seating plan. I wanted to check if maybe there was a last-minute change." She hesitated. I could almost see her glancing at someone else, rolling her eyes. "Oh, that. Maybe it was a mistake. I'm sure you'll find a spot somewhere. It's a busy week." A spot somewhere. Not at the main table, not even at a table with family. I thanked her, hung up, and sat there for a while, watching the little blinking cursor on my laptop. My hands felt cold. I couldn't shake the memory. The way, as a kid, I was always given the folding chair at the end of the table, sometimes squeezed between the fridge and the wall. "It's just for tonight," they'd say. "Don't make a fuss." I learned how to disappear, how to smile and act grateful for whatever scraps of closeness I was given. I texted Aunt June, trying to keep my words polite, breezy. "Hey, just checking. Where would you like me on the day? Is there a spot you want me for photos or the ceremony?" The little dots appeared, then vanished, then finally. "Not now, Rachel. We're busy. You'll figure it out." I felt it again, that old ache, the certainty that my usefulness had run its course. I thought about replying, defending myself, demanding clarity. Instead, I scrolled through all the drafts I'd started that week, explanations, apologies, questions I'd never sent. I deleted them one by one. Sometimes the most violent thing is to do nothing. So I did nothing. For 2 hours I just sat, listening to the clock tick. Then, quietly, I began to do something else. The thing is, when you're the one who organises everything, every contract, every deposit, every backup plan, you hold the keys to the kingdom. I called the rental company first, explaining there'd been a last-minute date change due to an emergency. "No problem," they said. The delivery would move from Saturday to Sunday. The caterer, the tent, the florist, one after another, all adjusted, all perfectly within policy. I cited the contract every time, my voice steady, professional. I even paid the extra rescheduling fees myself, just so no one else would get an alert. I sat back, surrounded by lists and receipts, feeling hollow. But there was a power in it, a silent, sharp kind of power. If I wasn't family, if I wasn't wanted, then let them have their day, without me. I sent one last message to Amanda. "If you need me for anything, let me know." She didn't reply. On the morning of the wedding, I got dressed anyway. Simple black dress, flats, no makeup. I walked past the venue just as the guests were arriving, balloons bobbing in the wind. The parking lot was full, but the inside, I could see through the open doors. No tables, no flowers, no music, no food. People milled around, confused, murmuring, checking their watches. I saw Aunt June pacing, phone pressed to her ear, her voice tight and sharp. Amanda and Liam stood at the altar, glancing around, unsure what to do next. No one looked at me. I didn't expect them to. I paused, watching as it all unfolded. Their perfect day, emptied out by their own hands. No flowers, no food, no power. But at least I didn't make a scene. I turned and walked away, silent as a ghost at the feast. You could taste the confusion in the air. It spread through the venue like a cold draft. People milled around, shifting from foot to foot, craning their necks, searching for someone who knew what was going on. The silence inside was so heavy I could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead, the echo of heels on bare floor. No one could find a place to sit because there were no chairs. The tables never arrived. Someone muttered, "Where's the food?" Another voice chimed in, "Is this a joke?" Aunt June stood near the entryway, phone pressed hard to her ear, lips drawn tight. "It's the vendor, they screwed up everything," she hissed to anyone close enough to hear. She looked at me for half a second, just long enough to let me know this was my fault somehow, but not long enough to risk a real conversation. I let her talk, I let her flail. I'd learned something after all these years. Sometimes silence is the only language that matters. A few feet away, my old friend Nora, who I hadn't seen since high school, fished her phone from her bag. "Rachel planned this whole thing. Where is she?" She snapped a picture of the empty hall and posted it online with a caption that made my ears burn. "Guess the family forgot who kept them together. Not the first time." The comments lit up fast. People remembered. People always do, even when families try to pretend otherwise. Liam found me outside, his face red, hands shaking. "What did you do, Rachel?" he demanded. "You ruined everything." I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I handed him my phone, scrolling through the emails, the messages, the contracts. "I was always here, every step. You made me invisible. You let them erase me until I was just useful. Until I didn't even have a seat at your table." He wouldn't look at me. He kept saying, "Why couldn't you just let it go? Why couldn't you just, I don't know, be happy for us?" His voice cracked. He never really saw me, not even now. Amanda came out next, her dress dragging through the wet grass. I watched as she tried to calm guests, awkwardly passing out leftover snacks from the kitchen, her hands shaking. For a second I saw fear on her face. Fear and something else. Meanwhile, Aunt June snapped at a delivery guy at the door. "This isn't our fault. You people messed up." Her voice cracked, desperate for control. Amanda took my arm, pulled me aside and whispered, I knew what they were doing to you." I let her words hang in the air between us, heavy as rain. "You're mad I left?" I said soft. "You left me first. This day, it was always about performance, not people. I just made your erasure visible." Amanda started to cry, but I didn't comfort her. For once, I didn't try to fix anything. The guests started to leave, their disappointment turning to gossip, then silence. Aunt June was still making calls, desperate for someone to blame. The sun slipped lower, throwing shadows across the empty room. I turned to leave. Nobody stopped me. Nobody called out. My shoes crunched in the gravel as I walked away, each step lighter than the last. Behind me, a guest raised their phone, recording the chaos, the empty hall, Aunt June on the verge of tears. I caught a glimpse later online as comments piled up. "This is what happens when you forget the person who holds it all together." That story was no longer just mine. Sometimes the loudest sound in the world is the echo of your own absence. The silence after that day wasn't empty. It was a relief, a weight lifting, a hush that let me finally hear myself again. For weeks, I didn't answer calls, didn't open messages, didn't scroll through group photos or updates or gossip. I packed my life into boxes, kept only what would fit in the back seat, and drove away before the city could decide if it missed me. It didn't matter. I was gone. I found a tiny apartment with peeling paint and sunlight on the floor. The first night, I lay on my mattress with the window open, listening to the sound of someone else's television. And for the first time in years, my phone was completely, beautifully silent. I started drawing up a new business plan on the backs of receipts. An event studio, but not the kind for perfect families or spotless parties. No, this would be for people like me who had to build their own tables, who never got a seat. I blocked every number with my family's last name. Even so, emails kept coming, mostly from Aunt June. We didn't mean it that way. "You're always so dramatic. Let's talk this through, we can fix it." I didn't reply. Instead, I dropped a single link in the group thread. A Dropbox folder, nothing else. Inside were the invoices, the voice memos, the screenshots, every calendar, every email chain. Proof. I didn't write a note. They'd always preferred facts over feelings. One rainy Thursday, Amanda tried to video call. I almost declined, but something in me, a scrap of that old loyalty, answered. Her face was blotchy, red-eyed, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She whispered, "I needed your help, but I stayed silent. I'm sorry, I don't know how to fix it." For a moment, I just looked at her, searching for any piece of the girl who used to braid friendship bracelets with me on the front steps. I said quietly, "I'm not your ghost. I'm done being invisible." Amanda cried harder, but I couldn't give her what she wanted. No quick fix, no comfort. That wasn't my job anymore. That night I remembered all those afternoons as a kid, building forts, baking cakes, drawing signs for other people's birthdays, always building, always outside the circle, always waiting to be let in. I saw my own hands, smaller, scraping mud from the backyard to shape walls, for a fort I'd never sleep in. I'm not angry, I'm just done. Family isn't a license to erase someone. My silence was survival, a way to mark the edges of myself, to keep from dissolving into their wants and excuses. I wasn't waiting for them to understand anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was just done. The next morning, I hung a new sign on the door. "Welcome. All outsiders welcome here." I set out folding chairs, real ones, in every colour, a row of empty seats waiting for anyone who needed a place. At the centre, one chair sat just for me, not on the edge, but right at the heart of the table. For the first time, I took my seat and waited to welcome the others. You know, I used to think it was just me, quietly doing the work, holding everything together in the background, hoping someone might finally see me. But if you've ever been made to feel invisible by your own family, if you've ever built something beautiful for people who never even said thank you, you're not alone. I see you. Maybe you see yourself in my story. Maybe you're carrying your own version right now, tucked away behind a smile or a polite silence. If you've ever held it all together just to end up left out, drop a black heart below. I'll be looking for you. And if you want more stories like this, more nights spent together in the quiet, more secrets whispered after everyone else has gone, subscribe to this channel. Here, silent strength means something. Here, nobody sits alone. Next time on Family Ghosts, he used me to get close to my cousin, but I became his karma. You won't want to miss it. I'll save you a seat. Tell me, would you have stayed or would you have walked away?